Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:49. I'm Mike Graham. Lots going on. Enough is enough, says Carolina in Bath. Mike and Emma. Star is from now on known by his second name, Rodney, and he is a plonker. Plonker, Rodney, you plonker. He's not fit for office and he has to go. He's a sanctimonious hypocrite of the highest order. Absolutely right.
Carolina, I'm going to call him the warthog.
You've got it in.
I think he's a warthog.
Warthog,
He looks like one. He sounds like one. He's got that nasally, snuffly warthog thing.
Absolutely right. Let's get a voice note from Mark on Islamophobia.
Mark from Essex. We live in a Judeo-Christian society. A lot of our rules, laws and systems of government are based around the Judeo-Christian faith. We have very strong, well-enforced anti-discriminatory laws in this country. When was the last time you saw a march demonstrating against Islam and Muslims? The only marches I see demonstrating against some sort of religious faith are the ones against the Jews. And they don't seem to be worried about protecting them. What I can see is that they're trying to enforce their voting base along with the 16-year-olds and people coming here from illegally. This is an absolute joke, and I'm spitting feathers about the way we're being treated in this country. Cheers, mate.
Mark, I don't blame you. Absolutely right to be sick to death of it. Spitting feathers. A lot of people are. Talk about spitting feathers. How about this in the Times this morning? The NHS has refused to publish in full a report exposing the failings in the treatment of paranoid schizophrenic, what's his face?
Valdo
Callicane, the Nottingham killer, because they're saying that patient confidentiality and data protection prevents them from sharing the information. Sorry, the patient's privacy is not an issue here, is it? 3
people were killed.
Yeah.
This was a report which presumably we've paid for via the NHS, a 200-page report.
Yeah.
And the NHS England is only going to publish an executive summary that's a few dozen pages long. And the victims' families have been told that this is because the report contained Callicane's confidential medical details. And the families are really upset, really
and these are the families of the
this.
2 students, Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar, both 19 years of age, and Ian Coates, who was 65. You know, we've spoken to these families on a regular basis, and they are the most genuine and great people that you would ever wish to meet, and they're being treated absolutely outrageously.
And look, make no doubt, there were so many failings along the way here on the mental health services, on the within the NHS, and also the police. And people that were in contact with this killer, and it was just let to go each time. It was just left, you know, they didn't follow it up properly. So that's why the report's probably not being published.
Absolutely disgraceful. We found a clip, by the way, of Angela Rayner. We talked about it earlier on. We referred to it. This is her version of trying to get some kind of law on Islamophobia defined. This is her speaking to Muslims in her own constituency, Ashton-under-Lyme, back in May of last year. Check it out.
And if Labour get into power, we will recognise Palestine. I will push not only to recognise, but there is nothing to recognise at the moment, sadly. It's decimated. We have to rebuild Palestine. We have to rebuild Gaza. That takes more than just recognising it. It takes resources. It takes infrastructure. It takes expertise. We need teachers. We need civil servants. We need all of the infrastructure. That's a big job.
She's sitting there completely covered up, not wearing the usual, you know, miniskirt, flashing her legs at Boris Johnson, like she used to do. Oh, no, none of that for the Muslim leaders, you know, the mullahs.
Demure dress.
Demure dress, and she's talking about rebuilding Palestine. Why don't you start with rebuilding Ashton-under-Lyme, or Rochdale, or Oldham, and some of the places where all of this horrendous grooming has gone on, and sex, rape gangs has gone on. How about rebuilding those communities first?
I think that's the key here, is that we just want our British politicians, it's like George Galloway, this was for Gaza, and people are going, hang on a minute.
Yeah, right.
You're a British politician. You've been elected to represent your constituents, British people.
Right.
But of course, they're more worried, especially in these constituencies. They're more worried about representing other faiths and groups.
Let's talk about Donald Trump, because we haven't given him too much of a mention so far this morning. Yesterday, I mean, you should have seen, you know, the vapours that were going on at Sky News, you know, where they kept saying, oh, you know, there's going to be world crashes, you know, the financial markets are all going to crash and burn. No. You know, in the end, it's going to be more expensive for Americans. He put tariffs on Mexico, he put tariffs on Canada, and guess what? Both of them folded yesterday and agreed to do things that he wanted them to do. And so he's now postponed the tariffs until a month from now.
It is so good to see someone, to see strongman diplomacy working.
Totally.
It's literally strongman diplomacy works.
Yeah.
Full stop.
It does. The end. You know, that's it.
it does work.
Yeah, threaten them with something because you've got a big stick to beat them with.
He said he was going to do that. He didn't lie. He said he was going to do this. He said he was going to make America great again. Yeah. And that's what he's doing. Yeah. How many executive orders did he sign on his first day?
Well, I mean, I've got a list here, which I'm going to read out in a minute. But these are all the things that he's done in the first, literally 2 weeks. Incredible. It's an incredible list, including mass deportation of illegals, DEI programmes ended, gender ideology eliminated, pronouns removed from all government
Literally,
emails.
everybody, the feathers were fluttering. The pearls were twitching. Yeah.
One of my favourite new people on the public space is Caroline Levitt. Who is the new White House press secretary?
Oh, yeah, she's brilliant, isn't she?
She's absolutely brilliant. Here she is talking about Elon Musk cancelling international development.
And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Brilliant. There you go. Caroline Levitt, absolutely.
She's so
gold
brilliant.
Star. Gold star. She's absolutely right.
She is, and she looks so innocent. Yeah. She comes out with this stuff. She's a killer. And did you see her talking about, I think, £10 million for condoms in Gaza? Yeah. It was just absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, it beggars belief.
Starmer couldn't even stay yesterday in the EU. He couldn't even take a side. He just said, well, we work with both our partners. The EU and the US are both very important to us, and we're not going to take sides on this. Yeah. He can't even have a position on anything.
No, he can't.
He has no backbone, no authority.
And on the other hand, let's look at a couple of other stories. A big story we're going to be talking about later on in the Daily Mail, page 9, crackdown on fat jabs at chemists. Apparently, people are going to chemists now and getting all these fat jabs because they don't have to worry too much about going to their own doctor. They don't want to get the ones online because they might be dangerous. But this is also dangerous, isn't it?
They're really dangerous. And look, we've talked about this before, but people are literally just filling out a little questionnaire, tick, 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 5 questions, whatever. I know plenty of people who are not medically obese, who don't need it, who are using it. They're ordering it online, they're going into chemists, whatever. The checks and balances are not there. And they probably should be. I don't know where I come down on. I used to think that Wegovy and Mount Jaro and all of that was a terrible way to lose a significant amount of weight. But then again, maybe, I don't know. Look, it's not safe. It's not safe to be buying this stuff.
Safe. You know, I would not be comfortable saying to my daughter, for example, you should take this, or saying
you should be injecting this stuff without proper medical screening or ongoing screening. And also, what's the plan like? Are people going to take this forever? What are the long-term? We don't have long-term data.
Nobody knows.
We do not have the long-term data.
We do know enough about how some people have been very badly affected by taking it.
Yes, we do.
And they've been very ill as a result. Finally, one more thing. Reform surging ahead in a new poll. This is a poll that was done, I think, actually for Sky News, the YouGov poll. It's got Reform leading. Not only going neck and neck with Labour, but actually leading. Yeah,
and we've seen, I mean, OK, it's always, there's a margin of error and all of that stuff. And I think they're 1% ahead of Labour, and the Conservatives 4% ahead of the Conservatives.
The Tories would love a margin of error.
Yeah, they would. But we are seeing now more and more of these polls coming out, putting Reform neck and neck or ahead. Yeah. And that has to be a worry for Labour. Well, we know it is, because they're also trying to... They've got, anti-reform little committees and, plans to...
Squeaky bum time,
Squeaky bum time, yes,
absolutely. Starmer. Or was that just on Christmas Eve? I don't know. Not for me to say. Anyway, listen, great to see you. Emma Woolf, thank you very much indeed. I'll just go through some of the other things that Trump has done. Over $3 trillion invested in the US economy since he got into power on the 20th of January, right? We're talking literally, less than 14 days. Mexico caved in, Canada caved in, Panama caved in, Colombia caved in, Venezuela caved in. Border crossings are actually down by 95%. People are actually walking back across the Mexican border for fear of being deported. I mean, that's how ridiculous it's got.
And guess what? If you have borders, people then don't try and breach them. Exactly. Meanwhile, we are hearing, sorry to come back in, but the French staff apparently are not really working much at weekends, so the channel's not really properly policed.
Of course not.
French border staff don't really want to do le weekend.
No. They don't. Well, welcome to...
I wonder, are crossings up at weekends? I bet you anything, crossings...
They probably are.
Illegal crossings,
it's like when the Border Force went on strike, actually more people didn't come to the country because they used to come more when the Border Force were working. Anyway, Morning Glory, more after the news.